Good morning. Today on Spotlight, the relatively new president of AT&T Michigan, David Lewis. He's the man leading 6,000 employees, 13,000 retirees, and a company that has recently invested $1.4 billion in its wired and wireless networks throughout this state. But what does he hope to accomplish with this new Believe Detroit initiative? We'll find out. And later, a member of the Michigan State Police, Detective Sergeant Sarah Krebs, will join me to give valuable information we should all have about missing persons in Michigan. It's Super Bowl Sunday, February the 3rd. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight from theCUBE. You got here in March of last year. How's it been so far?
Well, I got here in March. It was cold, and here we are, full circle again, and it's cold.
It wasn't this cold.
It wasn't this cold, but it was great. But I'm, from Indiana. I'm used to this type of a climate, but it's been great. From Lansing, Grand Rapids, all the way down to Detroit, it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. The people here are great. They're inviting. They're passionate. It's just been. I can't think of one negative thing to say about my experience thus far, my family's experience here in the Michigan State.
Good. Well, we're glad to hear that. You have a varied background with AT&T, but you also have a political background.
That's it.
Talk a little bit about that and how that prepared you for what you're doing today.
Absolutely. So, born in Detroit, but spent most of my life in Indianapolis, and worked in government right out of college at Ball State University. I was a Senate intern, and I worked for a couple of senators, and then I worked for then Governor Evan Bayh as a governor's fellow. Then worked in the lieutenant governor's office, then worked for Evan Bayh as a United States senator, then served as clerk of the Supreme Court for the state of Indiana for 4 years. So I served in elected office for 4 years, and I worked again for 2 governors, 2 lieutenant governors, and a United States senator, and it definitely prepared me for understanding that a lot goes through government. That you have to build consensus, you have to build relationships, and even if you're on the opposite side of an issue, you still have to find common ground. So it's definitely prepared me for the role that I play today as president of AT&T Michigan.
All right, now you're running a major firm here in the state of Michigan. Is politics sort of totally out of your blood, or down the line could we see
Chuck, when you're in
David Lewis running for something again?
No, sir. I've been in elected office, so it's I've been through the process, right? But politics will always be in my DNA, right? It's always something that I'll always, from behind the scenes, be involved in and focus on, right, as it relates to an interest in understanding how things operate and things work. What I love about the position here at AT&T is we are the public policy arm of the company. So we spend a lot of time with our elected officials, with our governor, lieutenant governor, legislatures, city council, township government, etc. So we work through all facets of government to make sure that we can tell the AT&T story as well as understanding what the Michigan story is as well.
Since you've been here, I know you've hit the ground running. I know your staff has worked closely with you. You've got a staff of some longtime Detroiters, Greg Clark, Rob Jones, and I know that they've introduced you to a whole lot of people. But they've also, I'm sure, worked with you on just figuring out just what's happening here with all this revitalization and the development of Detroit. But you obviously want to make your own mark, and I can see that. You got this new initiative. Talk to me about this new initiative and what you hope to accomplish.
Wonderful. Well, that's an excellent question, and I do want to acknowledge my Detroit muscle, as I call them, Greg Clark, Robert Jones, and Lori Dowdy. They are phenomenal partners to have, and they've done a great job in introducing me to this Detroit market. In the theme of Detroit, the comeback, right, and in regards to where Detroit's been and where they are now, we want to be a part of that fabric. So let me just say, AT&T has always been a part of the community in every state that we serve, through our foundation, through our corporate giving. This Believe initiative that is now 2 years old, that's throughout the country, is basically a more targeted effort for AT&T to understand, most importantly, what are the issues of every community, the major cities of every state, Detroit, Chicago, Los Angeles, Dallas, etc. What are the issues and how can we be a part of the solution? I go by the mantra of, I'd rather be a boulder in a pond than a pebble in an ocean. We want to make a splash. In order to do so, we have to be engaged. So Believe Detroit is a spinoff of the Believe initiative that AT&T is focused on. And our focus is to make sure that when we understand what the issues are by talking to the stakeholders and seeing what we can do through our resources, not just monetary resources, but our manpower. We live, work, and raise our families here in the city of Detroit, and our employees are engaged in more than just the day-to-day work relationship. They also want to be involved in the community, and this gives them the opportunity to do so. We started there, right? We started with the mayor's office. We started with the city council. We've met with stakeholders throughout the city of Detroit and asking that very question. You know, Mayor Duggan, what are the issues, right? What are the issues, you know, President Jones, of the city of Detroit? We've talked to major stakeholders, and that's where my team comes in play, and I'm so fortunate to have them on my team because they've identified, right? We want to know with the you know, Detroit caucus, right? We want to know with the elected officials, what are the issues in your district, in your community? How can we help? And that's why education is one of our main focuses with Believe Detroit, because that was the feedback we received. We understand there's gun violence, there's gang violence, and there's other initiatives that need to be focused on, but we need to take care of our babies. We need to take care of our youth and our young people. They need options besides what options they have once they leave school. What options can these young people have? So we partner with organizations and nonprofit organizations, and they have the answer. We want to be a part of that, and we want to make a bigger impact in assisting them in making that type of a difference in the community.
All right, we're going to take a little break. When we come back, I want to drill down on Believe Detroit, some of the organizations that you've partnered with, and how that fits into this bigger theme of preparing, getting the best talent, and preparing our youth for the future.
Wonderful.
All right, we'll be right back with David Lewis. Stay with us. Let's look at some of these organizations that you partner with, and I'm not going to go through all of them. The Detroit Urban League, the NAACP, Salvation Army, City Year, LaSalle, Cass Community Social Services, and it goes on and on. Right. First of all, how did you select these particular organizations? Because there's so many out here doing wonderful work. It's hard to just say, okay, we can only do X number, but how did you get to the ones that you selected, at least for now?
Excellent question. Our current relationships with these organizations is what we've done. Again, Believe Detroit is not AT&T's first partnership in the Detroit community.
No, you've been
for a long time, without question. So the infrastructure is already in place. So what we did was we sat down with organizations that we've worked with in the past. We've talked to them about our vision for Believe Detroit. And we've agreed as a team that we're going to work together with the same type of partnership, but we're going to enhance it more from a Believe Detroit perspective. So we've kind of taken a little bit of a pivot in understanding more, for example, with the NAACP and what they do in the community. We're going to focus a lot on what they do in some of their mentoring programs. With the Urban League, we're going to create a learning lab, a Believe Detroit learning lab, where we're going to actually have computers, PCs, laptops, and tablets that are going to enhance the learning and teaching experience for these young people. We're working with DC Elite, Derek Coleman. Shout out to Derek Coleman, who's a big supporter of the Detroit infrastructure. I've had the ability to, and the fortune to meet him and understand what his passion is. So we're going to work with his basketball program in the summer that's going to get a lot of the at-risk youth off the street and onto the court so they can learn lessons bigger than basketball. So there's a lot of partnerships out there. Our Tech Challenge, which was our big inaugural that we did last year, with some organizations, Hodge Fleming's headed for us, that allowed us to have a kind of a coding academy at Wayne State where young people came in and they learned how to build websites. Again, this is all about options for us. We want these young people to know that they can be more than what they're told in their neighborhood, right? It's not the community that's the problem, it's the toxins in the community. It's the bad influences in the community that these young people continue to be tainted by. We want to give them options. So that example was a great opportunity. 100 kids came, they were able to learn how to build websites, we were able to feed them and teach them more than just what they learn out in the street and in the community. We want to teach them more of a trade, an ability to learn more and be more of a positive influence in the community.
Mr. Lewis, these organizations get financial support, but I assume they also get the physical support of some of the expertise of the people and employees, whether they're current employees or maybe even retirees from AT&T.
You have hit it right on the head. That is the uniqueness of this entire Believe Detroit initiative. It's not just about our monetary investments. investment in the community and in the Detroit area. That's important, but it's also about our people. Again, we live, work, and raise our families in the Detroit community, in the state of Michigan. Our people are excited from all over the state to participate in all the events that we're putting together. It's about sweat equity, human capital, right? Our people do more than just go to work again and go home. They want to be a part of the community. They want to be a part of the solution. So what this allows them to do is to volunteer their time and treasures to embed that into these young people. So that's really the secret sauce of what this is about. Not just the monetary investment, but the human capital that's going to be attached to that. That's, in my opinion, what makes it unique than just a corporation writing a check and walking away wishing them luck. No, we're doing more than investing. We're actually being a part of the process.
The governor's coming up on her very first State of the State address. I understand that AT&T is going to be involved. You'll be down there. We'll
be in Lansing. We're having a watch party. We're inviting stakeholders to be in Lansing with us as we watch Governor Whitmer give her first State of the State. I know it will be fantastic. You know, fix the roads, right? Is one of her top initiatives.
Absolutely.
But we think that this administration, along with the House and the Senate, are going to work well together to move Michigan forward, and AT&T is going to be a part of that, from an executive to a legislative to a judicial branch. Whatever we can do to move this state forward, again, we stand at the ready.
All right, and when the Pistons are playing the Pacers, who are you rooting for?
Well, Oladipo's out, so I think the Pistons have a shot. But no, you know, I'm a Blake Griffin fan, but I'm also a Victor Oladipo fan. So let's just say I might have a Pistons jersey on with a Pacer T-shirt underneath. How's that?
All right, David Lewis, good talking with you. Best of luck at AT&T, and we'll get you back.
Would love to come back. Thank
All
you.
right, and coming up, we'll talk to a member of the Michigan State Police about missing persons and information that you in Michigan need to know. We'll be right back. Stay with us. And welcome back to Spotlight. Joining me now is Detective Sergeant Sarah Krebs of the Michigan State Police, and we're pleased to have you. Sergeant, thank you. It's still a little frigid out there, but thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
You head up the Missing Persons Unit for the Michigan State Police. You're also involved with investigations, special investigations. You've been on the force for how many years? 18?
18 years.
18 years. All right, so you're a veteran. No doubt about it. We're always hearing about missing persons. Is the situation in Michigan, is it getting better, worse, remaining about the same?
I don't think it's getting any better or any worse. I think what people are starting to see is that they're being more aware that this does happen in our state, and really what lends to that is that we share a lot of missing person information on social media.
Okay.
And so it's not
another way in which social media is sort of opening up the dialogue.
It is. If you think about it, 20, 30 years ago, the only way you found out somebody was missing was their picture was on a milk carton. And in today's time, you're seeing it pretty consistently across your news feed. So it's not, again, that we're having more of an issue with it. It's just the fact that we can reach more people through social media. So you're seeing a lot more of it.
All right. You are sort of a liaison between law enforcement and then the families of people that are missing loved ones. You started an organization when 501c3 nonprofit organization?
Yes, in 2011 I started Missing in Michigan, which really started as a one-day event where we declared it Missing Persons Day in Michigan. And it was really to reach out to the family members, to get them all in one place for the day, and to also liaison with law enforcement, because a lot of the cases that we were seeing back then, they were cold cases. And 30 years ago, when their loved one went missing, they might have gone to a local police department and they were turned away because it was just a different time back then. You know, hitchhiking was really prevalent, and if you were an adult and you went missing, you likely did not get a police report in those times. And it's very different today. So we're trying to bridge the gap with those family members and really reach out to them and let them know we still care, we still want to find your loved one. And there's so much advancement in today's world with DNA technology to connect missing persons with unidentified human remains. So that's a large part of what our organization does.
What's the first step that I should do? What should I do first? Because I imagine when you find yourself in that situation, all sorts of things are going through your head. The emotions are running rampant, and you're probably not sure, where do I just begin in making sure that I take the proper step?
Right. We always tell the families, please don't panic and do your own search first. We definitely want them to make sure that they're checking with friends and making sure this isn't just an overdue motorist situation. But you really have to take into account who is the person that is missing. If it is a child, do not waste any time in reporting it to the police right away. Time is an essence if it is a child, or if your person has any form of a disability. We see a lot of cases that the family member goes straight to social media. And that's kind of the new way to report somebody missing, and they kind of cut law enforcement out of it. So
and that's not good.
It's not.
Why not?
It is a perfect way to get the word out. However, law enforcement really needs to be involved in a lot of these cases, especially when they're missing juveniles or they have some sort of an endangerment. So when we see these types of posts online on social media, at least our organization really reaches out to the family and asks them, do we have a police report? Have you contacted law enforcement yet? And a lot of times we're hearing no. And we try to liaison with them to get them to the right jurisdiction and make sure that a police report is made. Right,
so make sure that you're working in concert with law enforcement. And I would imagine part of that reason is you don't want them to go immediately to social media is for the protection of the person missing, because we don't know yet why they're missing.
Yes.
It's not as though they were, they may have just been a runaway. By the same token, it may have been, as you told me before we started taping, all sorts of reasons. They may have been murdered, they may have been kidnapped,
Correct.
It may be opioid, it could be a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why people go missing. One of the things that I see that I think is so dangerous for families is you see a lot of posts on social media to contact me, or here's my cell phone number, call me if you see them. It is so dangerous to do that. You are creating a direct link to the general public to reach out to you, to ask you for ransom, to be scammed in some sort of a way. If you think about it, you have somebody missing that you love. You are extremely vulnerable at that point.
So you can make a bad situation
worse.
Even worse.
Yes.
All right, we need to take a little break. When we come back, we want to talk about some of the things that you're doing, reaching out to the public to make the situation a lot better. And we'll be right back. Stay with us. What's perhaps the biggest myth that you run into in your business dealing with missing persons or these type of investigations, whether it's from the law enforcement side or from the average person's side?
We see two ones that are pretty prevalent. Number one is that you have to wait a certain time period to report somebody missing.
Yeah, I've always heard that. You don't?
It's not. So especially if your missing loved one is a child. If they were under the age of 18, there's no waiting period. In fact, if they're under the age of 21, law enforcement has to immediately take that police report.
So it's none of that. I've always heard you got to wait 24 hours. They have to have been missing for 24 hours before you can law enforcement can get involved.
That's kind of a thing of the past. I will say that every law enforcement agency does have their own policy, especially with missing adults. However, if your missing adult is endangered, if they're disabled, if they have any type of cognitive disability, absolutely they're going to take that report right away. You really shouldn't take no as an answer if you think that your loved one is endangered.
Amber Alert. We all become sensitized to it, particularly in the last 10 years or so. How well does it work?
Amber Alert is honestly the greatest tool at getting an abducted child home. It is so powerful, especially the fact that we can reach the masses by alert straight to their phone.
Human trafficking, we know it's a problem, and I was even shocked when I saw a report a week or so ago about one of the days in the week in which it's the highest in this area is during the auto show.
That's correct.
But who's most vulnerable for human trafficking, and how does social media play into that?
So that's a great topic, and that's another thing I see a lot of myths and confusion about. Human trafficking is really happening as far as the recruitment process. It's happening either online or within a peer group of youth. So a lot of times we're seeing that the trafficker already knows the victim, and whether it be a connection through a friend or even a relative to that person, that is the trafficker. We're also seeing kids that are groomed online. So tons of young people are meeting their traffickers on apps. And apps that you would probably not even think that they're dangerous.
Well, you told me about one called Kik.
Kik is probably the #1 app that we're seeing our missing youth using when they're meeting people that end up bringing them into the world of human trafficking.
So parents who have kids that have that app should really...
I would really be aware of that.
aware of who they're talking to and what they're talking about.
Right, but not to say that it can't happen on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the ones that even we use and think that they're safe. Those can be used by traffickers. They know that these children are on there and that a lot of times they're vulnerable. So we see them meeting them. So if your kids are meeting people online that they don't really know, just have that conversation with your kids. That's where it's happening. It's not getting followed home from the grocery store or Great Lakes Crossing, all these myths that we hear online.
Yeah, you told me, you said, chances are it's happening while your kid is sitting on the couch in your house.
Yes, your kid is not getting followed home from the mall. It is happening in your living room. It is happening on their apps that they're communicating with people on. That's really where we see the recruitment starting.
All right. I know you have a big fundraiser coming up at the Royal Oak Market.
Farmers Market, yes.
Royal Farmers Market, which
Yeah.
I've been to a zillion times. A great market.
Great.
Exactly when and where is that?
It's going to be on February 14th from 6 to 10 p.m. Tickets are being sold on Eventbrite, and we also have a Groupon up right now for a short time. So if you want to come to our fundraiser, and that really benefits the families of missing people. And we also have another event coming up on February 20th at the Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office. We're having one of our DNA collection events that we call Identify the Missing.
All right. Anu Prakash, my colleague here at Channel 7, is going to MC that event. Of course, she's been working very closely with you in all of this because she does a regular report on Action News, Channel 7. So she knows all the questions and answers about these things and has gotten really very close to you and the work that you're doing there.
Yeah, we really appreciate your help.
Well, we're glad to do so, and I know Anu is excited about hosting this particular event. Any final words that you want to get out to the public to make sure that they're sensitized? If they need to get more information, is there somewhere they can go to get that?
Absolutely. So we have a large following online. We have a group called Missing in Michigan, and we have missinginmichigan.com. You can also go to the state police's webpage at michigan.gov/MSP.
Sergeant, thank you so much for coming
Chuck.
in and joining us today on Spotlight. And we want to thank you at home for joining us. I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the Spotlight. We hope you have a great week.